This is the Louie T Network. Hey, either you're outside or you're
in the lab room.
Who else could it be? With me, your me. Louie T, welcome. You are in the lab room. Of course, I'm your host, Lou. Thank you for joining me. Rumor mill exclusive. Are there going to be quarterbacks on the move this offseason? It's a great question. And we know that is the one position that can put you over the top in this league. If you don't have a quarterback, you don't have a chance. I say it all the time. So there are a few teams in particular and a few players in question that are out there potentially floating around. Now, you look at some teams that are right on the cusp of maybe making a postseason and maybe doing a few things. You got the Rams, you have the Texans, and you also have the Buffalo Bills as teams. You can also throw the Cleveland Browns in there after what they were able to accomplish last year as teams that are right there on the cusp of postseason play but are missing the most key ingredient, that being the quarterback position. So let's talk about these teams and a couple of options at quarterback for each team. Now, you start with the Rams, and I think they're the most intriguing team of all of these teams that I just mentioned because they have the roster right now equipped to go to the playoffs and make some noise. They just need a quarterback. Now, they have a quarterback on the roster that can get the job done. I'd like to think, before he got injured, 14 touchdowns, 4 interceptions in 2013, was playing at a relatively high level. I'd like to think that if you would have extrapolated that over a 16-game slate, Sam Bradford would have had a stellar season. Now, the problem with Sam Bradford, 5 years in the National Football League, only 2 of those seasons he was able to play all 16 games, and including last year where he didn't play at all and missed the entire season after injuring his knee in the preseason. So here's a guy that can't stay healthy, and if you're the St. Louis Rams, you're almost at wit's end with Sam Bradford and his injury struggle because your team is basically waiting on Sam Bradford to take this team where they're going to go. So the Rams have basically gotten to a point now where they're saying, okay, you make way too much money for a guy that we can't rely on. We'd love to keep you here and have you play for us, but we don't trust you. The trust level between Sam Bradford and the St. Louis Rams is at 0 right now. They don't trust him to stay healthy. He doesn't trust them. And so they say, hey, how about you take a pay cut? And Sam said, how about no, not taking a pay cut. Okay, well, how about you go and find somebody that's willing to trade for you? He said, I'm not finding anybody that's willing to trade for me, okay? I want to stay here, and you're going to pay me my $13 million. Or if you don't want to and you don't like it, guess what you can do? You can cut me, get rid of me. But I'm not looking for a trade partner, and you're not going to get me to take a pay cut. So basically, Sam says, you got 1 or 2 options. Either you can play me or you can get rid of me. But I'm not looking for anybody to come and save me, rescue me. None of that. It's basically a stare-off between the Rams and Sam Bradford. It's a game of chicken. Who's going to swerve first? Sam isn't swerving. Sam said, look, I got money in the bank. You gonna pay me more money this year. Either you gonna trade me or you gonna release me. If you're gonna release me, I only ask that you do it early enough so that I can find work. That's all Sam is saying. And the Rams are saying, look, they've already made their stance pretty clear cut. At the combine, when Jeff Fisher spoke to the media, he said, look, we're going to do something at quarterback. I can't tell you what. I don't know if we're going to go out and get a veteran, if we're going to do something in the draft, but we're going to do something at quarterback. We can't do what we did last year and be unprepared at the quarterback position in the event that Sam Bradford goes down. And, having Sean Hill as a veteran backup isn't unprepared. You're just not looking for Sean Hill to have to start, 10, 11 games. And so you really need to have a young guy, a training and waiting guy if you're the Rams. We'll see what happens there, but that's an interesting dynamic because at 10 for the Rams in the draft, let's just go with the premise that Jameis Winston goes first to Tampa. And let's just say that at 6, the Jets value a corner more so than a quarterback and they decide to roll with Geno Smith. Now you look at 7 with the Bears. They're not taking a quarterback, I don't think. They're going to roll with Jay Cutler, I think. That's the safe assumption. They don't take Mariota. I could be wrong, but let's just say he slides past 7. Now you're at 8 and 9. The question then becomes, does Mariota get past 8 and 9 and land in the lap of the Rams at 10? I doubt it seriously, because I think if he gets past 7 at the Bears, teams start calling at that point. 8 and 9 become hot spots for Marcus Mariota's services, and I think someone, whether it's the Browns, whether it's the Eagles, someone leapfrogs the Rams at 10 and gets Marcus Mariota. So if you're the Rams, and I know the Rams don't want to give up any picks to get a quarterback, if one falls in their lap, they'll be elated and they'll take them. But I don't think any quarterback will fall in their lap at 10. I've seen mock drafts where, Marcus Mariota lands in the lap of the Rams at 10. I just don't see that happen. Somebody's going to come up and take this kid if he gets past 7 at the Bears. And if the Rams value him enough, they'll have to move up a couple of spots. If they get close, the closer the pick gets to the Rams, maybe they'll think about possibly moving up a pick or two to get his services. We'll see, but interesting dynamic in St. Louis, to say the least. You go to Cleveland. Here's another interesting team. They pretty much alienated with Billy Ho, Brian Hoyer, their starter from last year, and he feels mistreated, and he's a hometown guy, so he feels like he has been essentially kicked out of the door in Cleveland. They went around, they talked to guys like Josh McCown, they put out feelers for trade options, and so he just feels basically like he's been slapped in the face by the Cleveland Browns organization, and maybe he has. But I think Brian Hoyer has to realize that he's not a starter in this league. He proved that last season when he had an opportunity to really seize that job and control this football team and take them to the postseason, and he could not do it. So I think he's a viable option as a backup in this league. I don't think he's starter material. So now the Browns, they have a question and some decisions to make. With 2 first-round selections this year, do you package something together to move up and get a guy, or do you stand pat? Now, I think it's a no-brainer. You don't package together anything. You invested a first-round pick in a quarterback last year, so if you're going to do anything quarterback-wise, it needs to be with a veteran, not another young guy, because, again, you don't want to compound a potential mistake last year with Johnny Manziel. And again, we can't say that he was a mistake quite yet. He's young. He's only been in this league 1 year. But the off-the-field issues was always a problem for me. They continue to rear their ugly head. So that saga continues in Cleveland. But I will say this. You cannot go out and package together picks to move up. I think the Browns, if they're smart, they pick up the phone, okay? They pick up the phone and they start putting out feelers. Hey, what do you want for Kirk Cousins? What do you want for Mike Glennon? What do you want for one of these other quarterbacks that are out there? What do you want for Sam Bradford maybe? I don't think Sam Bradford is going anywhere unless it's on draft day. If the Rams trade Sam Bradford, it's because they have a plan B already in place. Plan A is to start Sam Bradford. That's plan A in St. Louis. Plan B is, hey, we're going to get our hands on one of the top 2 quarterbacks in the draft, and so now we have the ability to trade Sam Bradford. So that trade for Sam Bradford, if it happens, will only happen on draft day, in my estimation, because if it doesn't, and you're the Rams, you've shown your hand, because you can't let everyone else know that you need a quarterback. Right now, you like a quarterback, you don't need a quarterback if you're the Rams. You trade Sam Bradford away, you need a quarterback, you then become desperate. So I don't think anything happens with Sam Bradford until draft day 2015. So I'm not worried about Sam Bradford going anywhere, but if you're the Browns, per se, I think it's in your best interest, and to me, the best fit in Cleveland is Mike Glennon. I thought the Tampa Bay Buccaneers made a huge mistake in not starting Mike Glennon last season. And I think the first mistake Lovie made when he came in was just giving the keys to Josh McCown and making him the starter in Tampa Bay, because I thought Mike Glennon played exceptionally well in his rookie season. I thought he did some really good things last year when he was given an opportunity to start. And I think that Lovie just felt like he wasn't the answer for some reason. I can't give you an explanation as to why, but I think Mike Glennon can actually start in this league and be a very serviceable starter. I think he's better than a lot of guys that are starting currently at this very moment around the league. So I'd like to see him get a chance. Why not give him a chance in Cleveland? I think he'll be able to thrive. He's big, he's long, he's got a good arm, makes smart decisions with the football. I like Mike Glennon, and I think if you're the Browns, and if it's going to take you maybe a third or a fourth round pick to fetch him, I say you do it and you put him into your lineup and you give yourself a fighting chance in that tough AFC North division. To me, that's their best option. If you're looking for a cheaper option, a different option, a stopgap maybe even, maybe you look at a guy like Mark Sanchez in free agency. I joke, I kid about Mark Sanchez, and I call him Dirty Chaz, and yes, he is Dirty Chaz. Don't get it twisted. However, Mark Sanchez is a huge upgrade to me over Billy Ho. He's an upgrade over Connor Shaw. He's an upgrade over Johnny Manziel right now. So to me, Mark Sanchez is a guy that can come in and give this team a fighting chance. Will he take you to the playoffs? Probably not. Probably not. Depending on how good you play defensively, you might have a chance. But he's going to turn the football over. He's going to keep both teams in the game. But it's better than what you have right now, which is basically nothing. So Sanchez is an option. Ryan Mallett is also out there too now. I think he's going to be back in Houston. I think Bill O'Brien is comfortable with him from the New England days. I think Bill O'Brien feels good about him knowing the offense, and I think that shoulder injury kind of messed everything up, but I think he's going to be back in Houston, and so I think he's going to solve their quarterback question for now. Don't know if that's a long-term solution or just a Band-Aid, we'll see. But for the Browns, I like the idea of them going out and getting a guy potentially like Mike Glennon. That seems like an ideal fit and a guy that I think can actually start in the National Football League. And then you have the Buffalo Bills. Kyle Orton says, enough's enough, I'm done. Thanks for giving me an opportunity to play, but I'm out. So now you're looking at EJ Manuel. Do the Bills believe in him? I don't think they do, but this is a new brass. Maybe Rex Ryan is willing to give him another shot. I'd like to think that EJ Manuel, with the right coaching and a little bit of time, may be able to do something. I was never an EJ Manuel fan. You can go and check the archives. I was always a guy that thought he was mediocre at best. So if they decide to go in a different direction, I can't blame them, but he's still a young quarterback, and I really didn't like the way he was handled last season. Even though it was probably in the best interest of the team, I still thought that it wasn't in the best interest of EJ Manuel, and if he was your franchise guy moving forward, that's not the way you want to handle him. But either way, if you're the Bills, you do have a quarterback on the roster that you can start in EJ Manuel, but if you're not comfortable with him starting, then maybe it's time for you to pull the trigger on something else. That something else could be Sam Bradford. That something else could be Mike Glennon. That something else could be any myriad of quarterbacks. I've already mentioned a guy like Ryan Mallett out there. Brian Hoyer is out there. Again, if I'm Buffalo, I'm not looking for one of these veterans that I don't expect to be able to get the job done. I don't want Sanchez if I'm Rex Ryan. I've been there, done that, don't want to do it again. Brian Hoyer is not a starter in this league. I don't want to go there. If you're going to go out and get Brian Hoyer, you might as well play EJ Manuel. If it's not Sam Bradford, if it's not Mike Glennon, if it's not a quarterback in the draft and you don't have a first-round pick, then if you're the Bills, I just think you stand pat with EJ Manuel and you just take your medicine there. And so we'll see what the Bills do, because there was rumblings and grumblings about them being interested in Sam Bradford and potentially wanting to trade for him. But again, they don't have any trade assets. You don't have a first-round pick. You traded that away last year. So the intrigue in Buffalo remains. What is EJ Manuel? Is he the guy? I think the Bills don't feel like he is, and that's why they're sniffing around. But to me, the guy that is the sleeper in all of this is Mike Glennon. I think this guy has the potential to be a starter in this league, and if someone is smart enough, they'll go barking up that tree, make a phone call to Tampa Bay, dangle something out there. Now, I'm not going higher than a 3. I would really like to give up less than that and maybe a 4. I'll give you a 4th and a 7th, or a 4th by itself. You know, I'll package together something. I'd really like you to stay away from, my 3rd-round pick. You're not getting a 1st or a 2nd-round pick, that's for sure. But I really would like to stay away from my 3rd-round pick as well. But we'll see. Mike Glennon is definitely on the block. Kirk Cousins is definitely on the block. You come with the right price tag, you can have yourself a potential starter in the National Football League. But one thing's for sure, some quarterbacks will be moving around this offseason. I don't think that this thing is done as it is configured right now. That's going to do it for me here in the lab room on this rumor mill exclusive. That was in the National Football League, whether big or small. We covered all here in the lab room. Come back and join me as I continue to break down anything and everything in the National Football League. See, bit. There's plenty more where that came from. While you're here, subscribe to the channel. If you want more Louie T, be sure to follow me on Twitter at In The Lab Room, or you can like the Facebook page at In The Lab Room. That's In The Lab Room on Facebook and at In The Lab Room on Twitter. Don't forget, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so.